What is one lie you must keep up that you hate, but it covers up a much bigger frick up? Years ago, I was partying with a college friend at a bar in New Orleans where he lived right out of school, in a big group, and his car was stolen. Years later he confessed to me that he decided to leave the bar early, accidentally drove into a swamp, and walked away from his vehicle as it descended into the muck. He then walked back to the bar and hung out the rest of the night, only to act surprised when his car wasn't there. The vehicle recovered 2 weeks later and insurance paid it off in full. The guy is now an attorney, investigating corporate fraud. Holy crap, the irony. This is probably one of my favorites I've read so far. Why don't you travel? Or even just go down to the USA for a day trip? Gas is cheaper down there. Blah blah. I live in Canada just on the other side of the border. I have to make all kinds of excuses like trying to save money by not going on vacations, not having a passport yet, having prior obligations plans, stuff like that. The real reason, I've got a criminal record. When I was a kid I chased my little brother outside with a spoon. Once we got outside he got on top of our car and started yelling. No clue why I was chasing him with a spoon or why I cared about him yelling. After he wouldn't get down I threw the spoon at him aiming for his stomach. Trying to avoid it he ducked and it hit him in the face right next to his left eye. After he calmed down I took him back into the house and told my mom he fell. He was hurt pretty bad. The spoon didn't just barely hit him. It caused permanent damage to that eye that he had to deal with for years. He wasn't blinded or anything but his vision was impaired. He was too young to remember. I'm 3 years older than him. That it was my fault so he doesn't know it was me. Not the biggest lie ever cause we were both kids and I didn't do it on purpose but it's still pretty crappy to know that I did that to someone. My girlfriend and I were sitting around visiting with a bunch of friends. She was sitting on my lap and someone else was talking, so no one was looking at us. All of a sudden I felt my girlfriend seize up as she stifled a sneeze. Unfortunately, holding back the sneeze caused her to rip a massive fart. The fart was so huge that every head in the room turned towards us with a look of shock and awe on their faces. I just smiled sheepishly and said, "Excuse me." All the guys cracked up and the girls feigned disgust until the aroma hit their nostrils. It was a rancid vulgar odor that cleared everyone out of the room. The group had a few good laughs and made fun of me for years for that fart. That's okay. That night, and many nights thereafter, I was amply rewarded for chivalry. TLDR. Took the blame for my girlfriend's very public, very loud satanic $$ blast DM. HS. Haha. My boyfriend did something similar once. I fell asleep at a friend's house while we were all hanging out. Apparently I let out a silent but deadly in my sleep and my boyfriend, whose lap I was using as a pillow, took the blame. People like you guys are the best. The reason why I'm going to community college this year isn't because it's cheaper. It's because I failed out of the well-respected state school that my Asian parents paid $35,000 for last year. 1. Join a study group. 2. Have wacky and zany adventures that reference pop culture. My mom didn't actually die of cancer. She died of HIV and I'm the only one of 5 kids, and my aunts, that know the actual truth. I keep telling my sister it's not a good idea to get a cancer ribbon tattoo but she doesn't get why. Try sending her links about how the ribbon is just a brand and if I recall correctly a pretty much stolen idea. So it's more about just not wearing the ribbon, not supporting cancer. Memory of your mom. That I've never been in a relationship. Nobody knew I was in one, or would have approved. It was with a much older woman, and it turned out a devastating disaster for both of us. When I was 15 and only had a driver's permit, I fell asleep behind the wheel and rolled the truck I was driving. My mom was asleep in the passenger's side and luckily we were not injured. She ended up telling the cops it was her driving since I would have been impossible to insure when and if I did get my license at 16 years old. It's not really a story that comes up often, but I have always felt terrible that it went on her driving record. Ever since that accident I've made it a point to be a safe driver and 8 years later have not been in another car wreck. Knock on wood. It sounds more like your mom's fault for not supervising you. If she was asleep in the passenger seat I'm guessing it was probably to be expected that a 15-year-old new driver would struggle to keep themselves awake behind the wheel. My girlfriend is mildly allergic to many commonly consumed foods and ingredients, which results in some pretty extreme gas. She's very sweet and doesn't want to seem picky about what she eats when with other people, so she doesn't normally say anything. I always take the blame for her farts at the dinner table. That's very sweet of you. I had a longboarding accident a year ago and I ended up injuring myself pretty badly. I got tendonitis in my ankle from a previous complication, bursitis in my hip, and I needed 8 stitches in my face. My boss would always tell me, you know, one day you're gonna fall off that thing and seriously injure yourself. So I lied and said I fell while chasing a dog down a hill. Now he kind of pities me and lets me take it easy if my hip starts to act up. Went to my aunt's house for Thanksgiving and she asked me to set the table. Apparently, I did it wrong because she asked me if I was left-handed. I said yes instead of admitting that I don't know how to set a table. From that point on, she made several comments about left-handedness and even made sure to orient objects to accommodate me. I had to pretend to use my left hand for the rest of the trip, and to this day, she still believes that I am left-handed. TLDR. My aunt thinks I'm left-handed because I can't set a table. For what is worth, your aunt sounds like a very nice woman for accommodating your false left-handedness. My roommate and I knew a younger guy, about 18, had some major drug and alcohol problems. He was staying with us for a week to try and get clean, since he lived about 3 hours away. One morning, I come into the living room and we're watching TV, when he says, I think my roommate came in here last night and grabbed my dong. I think he molested me. I stare blankly and remind him that roommate had been in a different state on business for the past 2 days. He says nothing, but mutters under his breath. I know he was planning on trying to blackmail and besmirch my roommate's good name, but forgot that detail because of his drug-addled brain. He never got the chance. He went back to his home 2 days later and was in a serious car accident. He and his GF were both drunk, and neither of them remembered who was driving. Her because she was drunk, and him because he sustained massive head trauma and can't function properly, can't talk, can't walk, can't use the bathroom, etc. If it weren't for his blinking and guttural moans, he'd be a complete vegetable. Here's the worst part, the part that pertains to this post. I never told anyone what he had said, or what I know he was planning. He was a piece of crap that was going to take advantage of my roommate, who is the best guy I know. After the wreck, my roommate was crushed. He thought he could have done more to keep the guy safe, and he did everything he could for the guy and his family afterwards. He doesn't know what the lowlife scum was going to do, and God help me, he never will. My husband and I were spending a few days with my dad and stepmom at their house, and we were hanging out downstairs when I go upstairs to change clothes. My husband runs up a few minutes later to use the bathroom. Since he is in the guest bathroom, I use the one in the master bedroom. When I come out, my husband is standing in the doorway of the guest room, silently and frantically motioning for me to come over. When I get in the room, he says, "Did I clog the toilet and it won't flush? You have got to find a plunger." So I'm looking around upstairs, but can't locate one. I tell him I'll have to go down and ask my dad where they keep it, and he begs me to take the blame to save him the embarrassment of clogging my parents' toilet with his massive poops. When I ask my dad where the plunger is, he gives me a weird look, and I tell him that I accidentally clogged the toilet. Him and my stepmom go on a scavenger hunt for one, but come up empty-handed. My stepmom is like, "I don't think we have a plunger." WTF. Who doesn't keep a plunger for those unexpected moments? Great. Now what, my husband is still hiding in the guest bedroom. Since no plunger can be located, my stepmom gets a yardstick from her craft room and proceeds to the bathroom to unclog the toilet. She freaking chops my husband's poop into enough tiny pieces to flush the toilet with a freaking yardstick, giving me looks. Dad, too. My husband emerges from the master bathroom, toilet flushing in the background. "What's going on?" I told him I clogged the toilet, and he starts laughing, and my parents start teasing me, making poop jokes and talking about how they're going to have to get my stepmom a new yardstick because I've destroyed the one she had. Yeah, my husband still owes me for that one. We laugh about it to this day, and my parents still bring it up in public. TLDR. Took the blame for clogging the toilet at my parents' house when In fact, it was my husband's poops that did it. To add insult to injury, they didn't have a plunger, and my stepmom used her yardstick to chop up the poops so that the toilet would flush. I had been wanting a kitten for a long time, so one of my staff girls gave me one. She was adorable and well behaved and I was extremely happy. A couple months later, I had to go out of town and asked my parents to take care of her while I was gone. The day before I got back, I got a phone call from my dad saying she had accidentally gotten underfoot and he had accidentally stepped on and killed her. Now, the girls ask about Aphrodite all the time and I haven't had the stomach to tell them the truth. That's so sad. I'm sorry. I once worked at a large store and walked up to a co-worker to ask a question. I must have startled her, BC as I was asking. I noticed a weird look on her face and suddenly realized that she was peeing herself. I pretended not to notice and made some excuse to leave and came back a little later to see her mopping it up. I said, did a customer spill another drink again, and wandered off. I told all my co-workers that a customer had spilt soda all over the floor in her department. I think that's called being a good friend. Had to say that I lost my virginity to some random girl at 15 when I really lost it at 16 with my mother's best friend. I knew pee was real. My family has too many wiener dogs and a lab. The lab is only a year old and doesn't know how much bigger she is than the two wieners. When I was calling all the dogs inside one day, the lab slammed into one of the wieners and ended up breaking her leg. Now, my dad is the least understanding butthole in the world, so my brother, my mom and I decided to tell him that I had accidentally tripped over the wiener dog and broke her leg, since we've all tripped over the little dogs before. We knew he wouldn't have gotten rid of the lab if he knew the truth. He still tries to make me feel horrible about breaking my dog's leg, even though it's just a lie we told him because we all know what a huge butt he is. I screwed up university. I had some medical issues to begin with and then I got lazy and had no idea what I was doing when I came to. And now I can't go back. I have to come clean soon, but I can't bear the shame. Nor do I have any idea of how to tell my parents. I was in the same situation a year ago. My friend. Moderate depression, apathy, general laziness. I blew a full ride scholarship because I didn't try at all. Eventually I just told my parents I fricked up and needed to move back home. It's been a hard year of full-time work self-improvement, but I'm much better for it. Just tell them, man. My wife and I were at my parents' house helping them organize things in the attic. My wife slipped at one point and stepped right through the bedroom ceiling. I picked her back up and I could hear my parents yelling, "What was that? What happened?" She started crying because she's always trying to impress my parents. So I yelled down, I stepped through the ceiling. Sorry, and took the blame. Years later, my family still makes fun of me for the incident. I just look over at my wife and wink. I'm not even your wife and I love you for that. I would probably beat myself up about that forever. My parents think I'm working 6 days a week and out with friends on my days off. In reality, I'm at therapy and doctor's appointments trying to sort out my depression. I've been putting on a fake smile for months and months. I don't think any family or friends have noticed that there's something wrong. I hope you're at least proud of yourself for knowing you're suffering and getting help for it. I hope you pull through it soon. I came up with a lie so I wouldn't have to go to my sister's friend's surprise party. I told her I had some homework to finish up that was due that night. There was no assignment. I just didn't feel like going. My sister came over and said I should at least sign the card. My sister then very strongly suggested that her friend really likes me. So now I do want to go, but I already told the lie. So now I backtrack saying that the assignment was almost done and I could turn it in now for a 90. I go to the party. We hook up 3 days later and I'm still dating her. The annoying part is whenever anyone tells the story of how we got together, they say that I got a lower grade on an assignment so I could see her. I really want to correct it, but there is no graceful way I can think of to do so. Let it go. The lie is now reality. I work as a bar manager, and both my boss and I are military vets. Actually, that's mostly how I got the job. We struck up a conversation and I discussed my time in the service, except that my 6-year enlistment ended at around 3 years, 2 months. I didn't go a WALUA or drink myself stupid. Mostly, I would oversleep and I was a shithead in my early 20s, not my finest hour. I left with a general discharge, so I still had college paid for in Texas, but very few know about this. I couldn't reveal this, and honestly, the lie has manifested into the status quo. Everything I have has been predicated upon a lie. My jobs, my girlfriend, who's a veteran, and even a good amount of friends have no clue. Not me, but my roommate freshman and sophomore years at college was put on academic probation for failing, and lost her full ride scholarship. She was too afraid to tell her parents, so she started stripping to pay tuition. Last time I talked to her, she never finished college, is still at the strip club, and her parents still think she's a graduate that just can't find a job. I worked at my dad's company when I graduated from college. I spent 2 years there. I tell people that I quit because it was essentially a dead end for me, and that I needed to move on. And while that was true, that wasn't why I quit. I texted a bunch of people an inappropriate message as a joke, one of whom was a co-worker of mine. She told our supervisor, and said she now wasn't sure she felt comfortable working around me. The supervisor could tell that it was a joke and a misunderstanding on the co-worker's part, but we both agreed that I was out of line. My dad found out later that day. The next day I went in and gave my 2 weeks notice. I said that any action not resulting in my leaving could potentially be construed as favoritism, and I didn't want to risk my father's position, and thus my brother's tuition and mother's alimony, on a silly mistake at a job I had outgrown. The only people that know what really happened are my co-worker, my supervisor, her supervisor, and my dad. Everyone else thinks I just got sick of the job and left. You have integrity. Seriously, you owned up to a mistake and faced the consequences. And what's possibly even more important, you learned from it. You are a quality person. Integrity, a rare gift. Don't ever lose that. I was over my girlfriend's house and things were getting sexual between us since we were alone in the basement. We start making out and she's touching me all over. Then she starts touching my penis and after a while I feel a sharp pain followed by a lot of blood. She then starts freaking out because there's blood all over the pillow for the couch and because I'm leaking blood all over. I decided to go take a shower and tell her parents I did it cleaning myself in the shower. They kinda believed it and her dad looked at my penis to make sure I was okay. TLDR. Girlfriend and I were fooling around and she ripped my penis. I told her parents it was me and now they think I don't clean myself properly. Plus her dad saw my penis. And her dad looked at my penis to make sure I was okay. Blink, blink. One of mine is why I ended up leaving college. I left college my sophomore year due to losing my scholarship. However, I lied about why I was leaving, saying I needed time off and I had to help my mom with financial issues. Luckily in my time away I was able to get back into my school. Unfortunately a year and a half later. Lots of people frick up. The key is, do you fix it? Buddy of mine came out of a family where life was as strict as the military. His parents had planned his life for him since he was born. He was supposed to go to some major Ivy League college and train to be a CEO or something, but he was miserable all the time. He just vanished without a trace one day, and his family came asking if I'd heard from him. I told them I hadn't, but if I did I'd let them know. A short time after he left he called me up. He'd made his way to the southwest where he'd taken up with some new agers and was studying painting. He just wanted to tell me goodbye since he wasn't likely to ever come back. He was doing better. With all that pressure gone he was finally free to be himself. His family occasionally reaches out to me asking if I've heard from him, but I keep saying no. Crashed my friend's motorcycle when we traded rides. I couldn't let my other roommate find out. I'll let my friend drive my new car but not him. Now we have to continue a lie about how he tipped it in the garage, which is hard for an experienced rider to admit. Frick this. I will let pretty much anyone who asks drive my car. However, my sister isn't allowed to drive it without me or for farther than a couple blocks and she knows this. She's crashed 4 cars and has had family members buy her new ones. I've paid for both of my cars and I'm not going to let her drive it because I'm still paying it off and she couldn't afford to pay to fix it. I was in a rush to get to school one morning and did not realize our second car was directly behind the car I was driving. I rammed into the back end of that car and broke the license plate. So I then had to take that car to prevent my mom from seeing it. I told my friend that my brother got in a fender bender, and I told my mom that my friend, the same friend, broke it by failing at a Dukes and Hazzards type slide on top of my car. So now they think all of my friends are irresponsible and overweight. Kind of a dong move blaming your friend, but dang if that isn't the most creative lie I have heard in a long time. You gotta quiet chuffed and me. Let's be honest. LOL rarely means LOL. I have 0 living relatives. I have 0 reasons for secrets. A very sad and awesome experience. Have any idea how awesome it is to do what you want 100% of the time? Have any idea how soul-crushingly depressing being orphaned is? Continue your bloodline or be the first failure in 6 billion years. Not so much a fuck up, but my boyfriend and I tell our families we met through old high school friends. We actually met online, and by random chance we went to the same high school and have some of the same friends. My boyfriend and I don't tell people we met online either. We tell people we met through mutual friends, which is true. We leave out that these mutual friends were in an MMORPG. Q. Why don't I have a car? A. Well, I could either afford a car or my own place. Real answer. DUI. Note, I actually can drive, but I am truly better off without one, since the lie answer is somewhat true. Cars are expensive as crap when you add up all the costs over the long run. Plus it makes me think twice about where I go. In New Mexico, having a DUI is a normal thing. The important thing is that you learned your lesson and it becomes something you can grow from and learn from. Don't avoid letting yourself have the chance at driving again because you're afraid you're going to do it again, but decide you're just not going to do it. My boyfriend and I met through friends who went to his college. The story never really got too detailed, but it was detailed enough where I'm sure I've missed details before when telling the story for a second or third time. Nobody has questioned it as of yet. The truth is, I was lonely and bored and kinda stupid, so I put up a Craigslist ad. He was lonely and wanted to frick, and he liked my ad. I don't think I'll ever come clean to the real world. This girl that used to be my best friend once broke a really old dish that we had, that was given to my father by his grandmother, and her mother before her, and so on. I took the blame because I knew my parents would have asked her to pay for it, because it was pretty valuable. I should have told them though, because she turned out to be a huge C. That I can't smell anything. I told my best friend that in 3rd grade to sound cool. The problem is that he has a photographic memory. I'm trained to never make a comment about smells. My parents even think I can't smell. They paid for a doctor to look at it. The doctor said, "Oh, sometimes this happens, it's probably nothing to worry about." Worst doctor ever. I can't get out of it. Ever. I'm stuck. The real twist would be if your friend told you he had a photographic memory just to sound cool, and now you're both sweating, hoping the other doesn't find out you're just a regular person. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.